All right, let's dive deep into HBO and Max. We've got this awesome interview from The Hollywood Reporter with their all-female leadership team. It's seriously like peeking behind the curtain. They're talking about what they want to see on screen, what drives them crazy, and even hinting at some upcoming shows.
You know, it's interesting because even with all these streaming services popping up everywhere, it seems like finding truly original ideas is getting harder and harder.
Yeah, it's so true. I swear I spend half my life scrolling and scrolling, and then I end up just watching the same kind of show over and over, like crime comedies, murder docs, another show trying to be the next Succession.
The article actually calls those out specifically. Overpitched genres, they say.
Makes sense, right? It's like everyone's chasing the same trends instead of taking risks.
Yeah. And you know, we gotta mention the budget crunch in the industry. It's a big deal. Even HBO, which is known for giving creators a lot of freedom, they're feeling it too. Remember when the tech bubble burst a while back? Well, Hollywood is still sort of dealing with the fallout from that, and it makes studios a lot more cautious about, greenlighting anything too out there.
Right, so money's tight, competition is fierce. So what makes HBO stand out in this sea of content? What's their secret weapon?
Well, one thing that really shines through in this interview is their reputation for working with creators who aren't afraid to push the boundaries.
Right, like they're not afraid of the dark stuff.
Exactly. They talk about probing the human spirit, not shying away from complex themes. Think about Euphoria or Succession. Those shows go to some pretty dark places, but they do it with such depth and nuance.
It's true. It's like you're not just entertained, you're like experiencing a whole different perspective on life, and it stays with you.
Yeah. And that also goes for their documentaries. They're not into sensationalism. It's more about letting the story unfold naturally, even if it's messy or uncomfortable.
Okay, well, speaking of things that can get messy, let's talk about intellectual property, right? It seems like every studio out there is scrambling to reboot or spin off their biggest franchises. So how is HBO navigating this whole IP thing while still, prioritizing original content?
Sarah Aubrey, who heads up IP development at HBO Max, she actually sees franchises as a way to support their original drama development. It's like they can use those big names to bring in viewers and make money, which then frees up resources for riskier, more innovative projects.
That's smart. And it seems like it's actually working. Did you see that The Night of the Seven Kingdoms is being made for under $10 million per episode? That's kind of insane for a show that big, right?
Yeah, for real. It really challenges the idea that bigger budgets always equal better quality. What do you think? Are you more drawn to brand new shows, or are you excited to see your favorite worlds expanded with these spin-offs?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I might lean more towards the original content, But I'm not going to lie, I'm definitely not immune to a good spin-off, especially if it's done well.
Sure. And speaking of talent, this interview gives us a little peek into who these execs are hoping to work with. Some big names on that wish list.
Ooh, okay, spill the tea. Who are they hoping to bring to HBO?
Well, Francesca Orsi, who heads up drama, she's apparently been after Martin McDonagh, the playwright and filmmaker, for over a decade. He's known for that dark humor and incredibly sharp writing, but he just hasn't been interested in doing TV, at least not yet.
Wow, so they're not afraid to, shoot for the stars, even if it means some rejection, right? Persistence is key.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're also big fans of Sean Baker, who directed The Florida Project and Tangerine. His work is often gritty and raw, but it's got this incredible heart to it.
It seems like they're drawn to creators with a really unique vision, people who aren't afraid to challenge conventions.
Exactly. And then there's Cola Scola. They're all buzzing about them, but they don't say what they're thinking about specifically. But Escola is known for incredibly sharp, often surreal comedy, so who knows what they'll come up with.
Oh, that's so intriguing. And speaking of buzzworthy, we got to talk White Lotus, right? Apparently everyone in Hollywood wants a piece of that show.
Oh yeah, totally. Orsi mentioned some kind of awkward encounters with actresses while she was traveling recently. Everyone wants to be in the next season.
Well, yeah. Who wouldn't? It's the show everyone's talking about. And Mike White's writing, it's just brilliant. Social satire at its finest.
For sure. And now for the million-dollar question, where will White Lotus go next? The execs dropped a few hints, and they're pretty juicy.
Okay, lay it on us. Where could they be taking us next?
Get ready for this. Brooklyn, Africa, or even the snowy mountains, they're all possibilities.
Brooklyn. That's an interesting twist. I could already picture the satire they could unleash on those hipster elites.
Oh, yeah. And Africa. Imagine the culture clashes, the social commentary. The possibilities are endless.
And snowy mountains. It kind of gives me force majeure vibes, that movie where the family's on a ski trip and everything goes wrong. It's perfect White Lotus territory.
Right. It makes you wonder what kind of characters Mike White would create for those settings. What secrets would they be hiding?
I'm already hooked. So, listeners, we want to hear from you. Where would you set the next season of White Lotus? What kind of drama would you unleash? Hit us up on social media and share your ideas.
It's funny, though, because while White Lotus is all about escapism, this interview also gives us a look at some of the serious challenges that HBO and Max are facing.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to balance this reputation for, groundbreaking prestige TV with the reality of a very crowded streaming landscape.
Exactly. And that leads to some pretty big questions about the future. Like, can they keep delivering those water cooler shows that everyone's talking about? Or will they have to compromise their vision to stay afloat?
Yeah. And what about this whole IP thing? Can they find that sweet spot between leveraging existing franchises and nurturing truly original ideas?
It's a tightrope walk for sure. But, they've also got something else going for them. An all-female leadership team, which is still pretty rare in Hollywood.
I was just thinking that. It's amazing to see these women at the helm shaping the future of entertainment. And they're not just making great TV, they're breaking down barriers and paving the way for other women in the industry.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that diversity behind the camera leads to more diverse stories being told, which makes for a richer, more interesting viewing experience for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about White Lotus, these dream locations, and the challenges of balancing original content with those big name franchises.
Right.
But we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the Harry Potter series.
Right. It's a huge undertaking. And the article touches on the casting challenges, which are going to be considerable.
Oh, for sure. Everyone's got an opinion on who should play Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Are they going to try to bring back any of the original cast? Or are they starting fresh?
Well, from what Sarah Aubrey says, it sounds like they're committed to finding new talent for the main roles. She emphasizes that these characters will be with the show for like a decade, so they're looking for actors who can really grow with those roles.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You want to honor the books and those iconic characters, but also give a new generation of actors a chance to make their mark.
For sure. It's a delicate balance, and I'm sure fans will be watching very closely to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely. And speaking of fan favorite shows,
Mm-hmm.
what about some updates on HBO's existing hits? Any news on Big Little Lies Season 3? Are we ever going to see those Monterey Moms back in action?
Well, it seems like Big Little Lies is still a possibility, but it all depends on Leanne Moriarty finishing the book. They've got about half of it, and she's working hard to complete the story.
Fingers crossed. I'm dying to see what those characters are up to now. And what about Euphoria? Is it really ending after this current season?
Francesca Orsi was a little cagey about that one. She said it's not over till it's over, but she also praised the quality of the current season, so it's kind of a wait-and-see situation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like they're being very intentional about not stretching shows out just for the sake of more content.
Yeah, they're definitely all about quality over quantity, which I appreciate. And that brings us to The Penguin. Is there more story to tell after that limited series wraps up?
I mean, Colin Farrell was just so good in that role. I could definitely watch more of his Penguin escapades.
It sounds like there's potential for more, but HBO wants to make sure that any continuation lives up to the original.
Right, which is a good thing. Sometimes it's better to leave the audience wanting more.
Yeah, totally. This whole conversation has really highlighted how HBO is navigating this complex landscape. They're juggling these big franchises, nurturing original content, and trying to stay true to their reputation for quality in a world where everyone's vying for attention.
Yeah, it's like they're holding on to this legacy of groundbreaking television while also adapting to the new realities of streaming.
And doing it with an all-female leadership team, which is pretty remarkable.
Right, it's like they're making history. It's inspiring.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of HBO and Max, I'm left wondering, what does the future hold for them?
Yeah. Will they continue to be the gold standard for prestige television? Or will they have to make some compromises to survive in this ever-evolving industry?
What do you think, listener? Only time will tell, but it's definitely going to be fascinating to watch it all unfold. It's a question that we could debate for hours, but honestly, after going through this interview, I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
Yeah, I'm curious why.
Well, for one, they're so self-aware. You know, they're not pretending that these challenges aren't there. They acknowledge the budget, crunch, the IP pressure, and the sheer volume of content out there.
Right, and they're not just like sitting back and letting the industry kind of dictate their moves.
Exactly. They have a clear vision for what they want HBO and Max to be, and they're willing to make tough choices to stay true to it.
Like holding off on Big Little Lies until the book is done, or
Yeah.
not rushing into more The Penguin just because it was such a big hit.
Exactly. Those decisions show a real commitment to quality over quantity.
And let's not forget, they're doing all of this while also championing diversity and inclusion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Having an all-female leadership team is a powerful statement in itself. It sends a message that things are changing in Hollywood.
And hopefully it inspires other studios to follow their lead.
I think it will, because ultimately, it's about the stories, right?
Always.
And HBO has always been known for telling stories that matter, stories that push boundaries, stories that stay with you long after the credits roll.
Right. They're not afraid to make you think, to make you feel, to make you uncomfortable even.
And that's what makes them so special. So listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of HBO and Max, we leave you with this thought. What kind of stories do you want to see in the future?
Yeah, what shows will capture your imagination and leave you wanting more?
Because ultimately, it's the audience that has the power to shape the future of entertainment.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of the stories that shape our world.